Splash.
Your
You on
time
with the
is
pause.
up. My time is now.
How you doing, brother?
Doing good. That was in honor of there's a John Cena heel turn in WWE.
Yeah, he was filthy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Does he still wrestle?
He's this is his last year, so he's kind of on a part-time like a retirement tour. But
Okay.
he hasn't really wrestled too much. He's starting to look older and stuff.
Did I ever tell you he was my favorite wrestler?
No, and I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think what made him so relatable, well, maybe not relatable, but he was just, for me, I liked him because he was this white boy rapping and also like he was just filthy and like he had a swagger to him that I think
Hmm.
a lot of maybe young kids resonated with. And, you know, I was 10, 11 watching him. But yeah, for whatever reason, he was just my favorite wrestler. I think his finisher was pretty sweet too.
Yeah, it's I think it was the FU and then they change it to like the attitude adjustment. They went from like PG-13 to rated G or whatever for the
Do you remember
kids.
when he picked up Big Show? That was crazy. And I
He
think
must
like
have.
when he slammed
Hmm.
him, like the stage broke at one point.
Hmm. Yeah, Big Show, he must have picked that dude up at least a dozen times. Big Show should have learned after the first time not to mess around with John Cena.
Yeah. So we had a friend over, a mutual friend of ours over at our
Hmm.
place not too long ago, and we were watching wrestling. And Emily goes, "Ugh, I hate wrestling. It's so fake." And I go, "You women just don't understand. Like the toll that these guys put on their bodies of, you know, getting hit every day in the face, literally jumping off of ladders
Yeah.
and just like it's fake, but like you're still getting hit in the face and like thrown out of the ring with chairs."
Yeah, it's fake in that, it's scripted and stuff, but you're
Yeah.
still putting the miles on your body. You're traveling every week. You're having different matches probably many times a week. Most of them don't get seen if you're doing like house shows and stuff. And then, I'm sure she likes The Bachelorette or The Bachelor. Same thing. It's just that's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. When was the last time you went to a wrestling show? I know you and Drew went a few
Hmm.
few I think a months ago, maybe last few years ago. I remember him saying that you guys went or were planning on going.
Yeah, we had been to a couple in I think like 6 months ago, 7 months ago. Him and I went to like Cleveland, Ohio, to SummerSlam. That was pretty cool.
What was the atmosphere like in Cleveland, Ohio?
It was cooler than you'd think. Like we were both like, oh man, we really were going to Cleveland. But you got there and like it was actually a lot cooler than you thought. Like it was a younger city too, like a lot of young people work there for whatever reason. It seemed like clean to me, which was cool. We didn't really get to see like where the Cavs play, but everything was right downtown. You have the Browns where the Browns play, the Cavs, and then I think they have a hockey team and a baseball team all in that area. But it was a little bit cooler than I thought, and it was like it's right on like a Great Lake too. So they actually have like a beach in Cleveland. So it was actually very pretty. And I didn't see that coming. I was ready to hate on it, but that's Cleveland in August, so I don't think I would want to be there, Cleveland, during like the winter time still.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of negative things about Cleveland. Like my
Hmm.
first conversation ever about Cleveland was about with a professor talking to me about how Cleveland was a place where he had gone and hated because there was no nightlife there and how it was like everything would close after a certain time. So, and then of course, just thinking about Ohio, like it being in the quote unquote in the middle of nowhere. But dude, Cavs are looking up this year. Number one
Yeah,
seed in the East.
yeah,
I I'm making a prediction that they're going to come out the East and win it all, even though you know me, I bleed purple and gold.
yeah. We'll call up your boy LeBron and tell him to get some ice packs on his groin. Maybe some icy hot. But I think that's a fair prediction. I'm just, I'm looking forward to the playoffs starting because, some of these regular season games are just like a wash and like nobody cares at some point. Like it's an 82 game season, it's a slog, and it's just a totally different environment in the playoffs. Like these touch fouls and everything's gonna go away. And
Yeah.
even back in the day when James Harden was like the MVP, if you're playing iso ball, not that the Cavs do, but I know a couple different playoff teams can, but if you're playing iso ball, like that's not gonna fly. People can be physical and they're gonna get away with a lot more, and just the intensity is so much more. So I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I know we're getting there probably next month or so. I know the regular season's coming to an end.
Do you believe in the rumors that the NBA is losing fans and their ratings are decreasing?
Um,
That's
I
that's
know
been the
that
headline lately.
mhm. I know I've heard that same thing about like viewership is down. Um, and I think a couple things could be true. I think viewership is down, whenever they took the thing, like this survey, whatever. I'm sure viewership was down maybe from one year to another, but there's also like many ways you can consume the NBA. Um, you know, for me, I usually just watch like YouTube highlights of like full games if it's not the playoffs, just to get a feel of like how the games went. Um, because like for a long time I didn't really have cable, so I'm like, I can't watch, especially the Celtics, I can't really watch them.
Yeah.
Um, so I believe that viewership was down, but I don't think like pe people are like losing interest in it. And I
Yeah, I
think,
agree. I think there's multiple different ways of the streaming
mhm,
services people are consuming media just in
mhm,
general.
yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
And I was just gonna say, I think like people aren't losing interest in the NBA, like especially after the huge Luka trade to the Lakers and Anthony Davis getting swapped. Like, if I'm at the gym playing ball, like you hear people talking about it, you hear like, wow, like Luka's gonna be the face of the NBA after LeBron goes and this and that. Like, I think that's definitely just an example of how, people are following. People are still following and like watching how things are unfolding. Just might not be how it used to be like traditionally, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting this debate of like who is going to be the face of the league after
Hmm.
these OGs are gone, like Curry and KD and Bron. For me, it looks like Wemby is definitely up in
Hmm.
there for to contend for the face of the league. They asked Anthony Edwards the other day, "Hey, do you want to?
Hmm.
How do you feel about being the face of the league?" And he was like, "No fucking way! Like, I don't want that
Hmm.
pressure." So that was interesting. Um, and then I thought about for a long time that Wemby was not going to be the league for a long time, just because. Now this is kind of stupid of me, but I, I've been known to do stupid things, to say stupid things. So for me, I thought Wemby was not going to be the face lead because just because he's so damn skinny, dude. Like he's 7'6",
Hmm.
he's so tall and he's so skinny, and the chances of you getting hurt are just naturally higher when you're that skinny. But then there are
Hmm.
videos of him stretching and his flexibility strength training. And I was like, oh my God, this dude is a monster. And then I saw him hustle his ass off in the All-Star game. And I was like, he's just like, it's not just like his ability to play basketball, but his mindset he brings to the game. I
Hmm.
really like that. It's a very competitive nature. And I think that's what the NBA is like hungry for. Like they need more of the competitive spirit. And then I said that, and then 2 weeks later, he
Yeah.
there's a headline. He's out for. he's out indefinitely for the rest of the season because of a blood clot, I think. So, yeah, the NBA is headed towards I think is in this interesting phase of, like I said, OGs leaving, new blood coming in. But I think to a larger degree, LeBron and the Currys of the world are still like, hey, this is our league. Like
Yeah.
we're not done. We're not done yet. So I definitely see Cleveland coming out the East. Do you think it'll be Cleveland versus the Celtics in the conference finals? I see that as a very highly likely, and that's going to be a nice matchup.
Yeah, I would say I would be shocked if it like I would be shocked if it's not those two teams, and I would be more than shocked if like another, if it was even just one of those teams and someone else, I would be shocked too. Like if somehow the Knicks got in or like the Pacers or the Bucks, just because you look at the standings and just how the season's been playing out, like there's a huge drop off between one and two, and then there's a huge drop off between two and everyone else in the East at least.
Yeah. And that's interesting. Like there's a drop off, like you said, in the East, but in the West, every
Yeah.
there's it's stacked. Like there's I think the number two seed is all everyone's between like 3, 4 games of being the 2 or 3 seed.
Yeah.
Like Lakers lost 2, 3 games and they're all the way like I think they dropped from the second to sixth or fifth seed already. So
hmm
yeah,
No, it's definitely interesting the conferences. I feel like for a long time, the Western Conference has been a little bit more competitive and a little bit more unpredictable. For a long stretch, when LeBron was in the East, it's just like, all right, pencil in the Cavs, pencil
yeah.
in the Heat, um, pencil in the Cavs with Zydrunas Ilgauskas or whoever the hell he was running with back in 2007. So he was running the East for a long time. And
Yeah,
then,
just playing with straight up scrubs.
yeah, Daniel
Okay,
Gibson.
I know we say that lightly, but like, man, if you in actuality, if we think about it, there's 350 jobs in the NBA, and we're
Mhm.
talking about 350 million people in America, not even counting the guys
Yeah.
who are overseas playing. These guys are all one and one. They're all superstar athletes, um, special, gifted, and special in like their own ability to like if you're a shooter, like you could really shoot the fucking lights out. And if you see these guys
hmm
like in warm-ups and practices, they just don't miss.
hmm No, I agree. I'm just saying kind of like compared to each other, or, if
Yeah,
you're comparing
yeah.
Brian Scalabrine to LeBron James, like I'm gonna take LeBron. But I definitely understand your point. Everyone, those athletes are definitely one of one, and that's where in the league, and that's why still like on any given night, especially in the regular season, like anything can happen. Um, so, it'll be exciting. The West, I would say a little bit more unpredictable. I would still probably say the Thunder are going to be coming out just because they seem hungry. It's one thing to I think what is this 2 straight seasons where they're the number one seed in the West. They just
I
seem
think
like
so.
they're super hungry to be winning, to be playing that
Yeah.
consistently all year is impressive. Same thing with the Cavs, which is why they should at least be favored maybe in the East. But there are a couple different trades at the end of it, or towards the end of the year. I was impressed watching like Luca and LeBron for that 4 or 5 game stretch that they had, and they're getting
Yeah.
healthy. So,
Yep.
we can't look past them. The Nuggets, I don't know actually anymore because they lost recently, and I think Jokic is like, we just can't turn a switch on. Like they lost to, I don't know, the Pistons or something.
Yeah, on a
Um,
buzzer beater, I think, or something like that. But or was it by Washington?
oh
I know
yeah,
it
I
was
think it
by
was Washington.
Jordan
Yeah,
Poole.
yeah.
Yep. Speaking of Brian Scalabrine, the two gingers I'm most scared of is Eddie
Yeah.
Eddie Hayes and Brian Scalabrine. And is it just a coincidence that I get the better ginger on St. Patty's Day? So happy
Mm,
Patrick's Day, by the way.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I
That's a
I had my
nice
first
that's a nice segue.
I had my first what is it called? I had my first shepherd's pie yesterday.
Oh
Have you ever
wow.
had a shepherd's
I've had
with
like one or
Guinness?
two. I've
Yeah.
had some Guinness, yeah. I wouldn't say like the Irish are known for their like good food. But I do commend you for trying the shepherd's pie. And I actually don't think that's too bad. You get some beef in there, some carrots,
Yeah.
potatoes maybe.
It was very it was like comfort food for me. I thought.
Where'd you have it?
So it was a local bar by my house,
Hmm.
Irish pub. Emily is half Irish, so we decided to go celebrate.
Hmm.
And then while we were there, we were talking about maybe we should go to Ireland. And she was motivated and said, "Oh, maybe we should go to Ireland one day." Have you ever been?
No, no, I haven't been. My parents went for one of their anniversaries within like the last 10 years or so, and they loved it. Like just super open. If you like nature and you like the outdoors, it's a great place to be. Um, I think they saw like they have different farms there, and there's one dog like herding sheep, just all this awesome stuff. And then you go to the bars, and everyone's just drunk and happy to see you. It seems like, and it's very, it's just very beautiful. That's what they kept saying. Like
Yeah.
Cliffs of Moher, I think, is a place where they had been. It's kind of like at the edge of a point of Ireland, and you could just look out and you just see, you see all green behind you, but then in front of you, it's just like, the ocean and stuff. So I would like to go back at some point too, and just maybe, see where my ancestors had grown up.
Yeah. I asked Emily, I was like, "Hey, like what would be the first place you would visit when you're in Ireland?" She
Hmm.
said castles. I was
Hmm.
like, "Castle." I was like, "What particular castles?" But I guess there's a lot of castles because of the Renaissance or the medieval stuff, medieval
Hmm.
period. And I said when I go or when we go, I would like to schedule our trip around this thing they have in Ireland called the Isle of Men. And it's when they have it's this massive motorcycle event that happens, I think once a year. And dude, these guys are gunning it
Hmm.
on these very like sharp and edgy turns at like 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. It is absolutely sick to see. And I'm gonna see if I can pull that up here.
Isles of Man, you said?
Yeah, it's called
That
Isle
sounds
of
cool.
Men.
Hmm.
It's a motorcycle event in Ireland. Yeah, I'm just pulling it up here. So definitely an event I want to get check out when in Ireland. I will. Oh, here we go. Okay. Can you see my screen here?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I can see. Holy shit.
It's this massive event where a lot of people come out. Like, just look at that, dude. That really is gorgeous. Imagine gunning it.
Yeah. Let's make that my screensaver.
Okay. How do I stop this? Okay. Yeah. The so I had asked you, dude, have you ever been crossed over or crossed up in basketball? Like, have you ever actually lost your ankles? And I'll tell you what happened to me. I actually did at one time.
I don't think I've ever, there's been times maybe when I was turned around or this or that. I don't think I've ever like the classic one, the crossover where the ankle breaker where you are like, you break your, like kind of fall. Or the second thing is like usually like trip over yourself and you fall, which is like usually
Yeah.
another way to fall. But I don't think I've ever gotten my ankles broken, but I've definitely been like turned around definitely a handful of times. So knock on wood, that never happens. Why, what happened
How
to
about
you?
so I actually did had my like I actually lost my ankles. Like
Hmm.
I had to go look for him afterwards. It was some kid in high school. He just and you remember those Roshimaros that were a thing back in high school where you just kind of slip on as sneakers? Roshimaros?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
So I was wearing those. So those are that's what my excuse was, and I was wearing those in gym class, and this kid just hit me with a just a like a I guess Iverson crossover, and like I went that way, and he went right towards the bucket. So that was the only time I remember being crossed over. And then I remember being dunked onto at an LA Fitness. And if anyone's ever been at LA Fitness, you know they'll never let you live it down if
Yeah.
if you get yammed on in LA Fitness. So, but I feel like everybody's got to go through it. Go through the experience of getting dunked on and getting their ankles broken. It's just it's just one of those things you got to check off.
I would stop going to LA Fitness, just start going to the next closest one.
I did. I did. I stopped going after that. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding. It wasn't right after that, but yeah.
knock on wood, I haven't been dunked on, but when I was in high school, my best friend at the time, we were playing St. Joe's, who had like Carl Towns. So
Hmm.
uh he was in the game. I didn't even get to get in the game. That's how, I wasn't that good. But I don't even think it might have been Carl Towns. I think Carl Towns dunked on my buddy, and we all were like, "Yo, that was actually pretty cool, man."
That's so this is a true story where you went to school with Carl Anthony Towns, right?
Yeah, my freshman year, and then I transferred to another school after that.
And you helped him cheat on in a Spanish class, some sort of Spanish exam I
Yeah.
remember you telling me about.
I didn't help him cheat. He's a tall dude, so he was like looking over my shoulder like a religion exam. He sat like right behind me, and I'm sure he figured like, okay, this guy is a goody goody. Like he knows all the answers here. So I stick to my guns on that one.
So you weren't actively helping him cheat, but he because how gigantic he is, he just kind of
Yeah,
looked towered over you and was like, okay, yeah. And
yeah,
you could tell when someone is cheating, like especially if their eyeballs are like right on your paper.
yeah, yeah. He was behind me. You can like hear him breathing down your neck.
And and so this was you said this was in high school, and
Hmm.
okay. And did you guys never play? Did you guys ever play together at all? Because you played a
No,
little bit of ball.
he was in varsity his freshman year, and I was freshman, so I played on like the freshman team.
Okay. Was it? I'm sure he was. I forget. Was he a good prospect? Like a highly recruited prospect in high
Oh
school?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think he was like Gatorade player of the state or like player of New Jersey at least twice while he was there. So yeah, it was definitely. I think a lot of people knew he was going into the eventually going to get into the NBA in high school. Because he went to Kentucky for a year, and I think that Kentucky team was like pretty loaded too, where they had a lot of like one and done freshmen. I think maybe even Devin Booker was on that team. A couple other guys too.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I can't remember, but they might have won the NCAA championship that year too, I think. But I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
If not, they were in the finals. And one of the other. Have you
And
been playing any ball recently?
no, I haven't played basketball in like over 6 months since
Hmm.
the last, I guess, summer of 2025, the last day of summer since 2024, sorry. And I've been telling myself I should go and get some runs in, get some fresh legs under myself, but just the opportunity hasn't come around. Like I don't know where to go. I don't want to go to the LA Fitness again for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And you know, the weather hasn't been
They got your
cooperating in
picture up.
Jersey.
They got your picture up. They're like, keep this
Yeah,
guy out.
yeah. And the weather hasn't been cooperating in Jersey for me here. So like
Hmm.
I'm sure I was gonna ask you like, dude, what's up with this weather in Jersey? It's freezing outside right now. But last week it was like sunny, high 60s. So I think just the opportunity hasn't been there for me to go out. And then when I do go out to play these local parks, like I just feel like there's just so many kids, and playing with kids, it gets annoying because most of them don't really take it not serious, but like most of them, at least where I am, like they're just smoking weed on the court and
Hmm.
hooping, and I don't know, like I don't know, it kind of takes away from the game. So whenever we get our runs in, I really have fun doing that. That's a lot of fun for me. Um, Getting the squad together, hooping. But then I get that's also like a drive in terms of like having to meet
Yeah.
up and all. How about you?
No, yeah, I try to play like 2 or 3 times a week. Just having good gyms nearby is like super clutch. There's a good LA Fitness 20 minutes from me, and then there's another one. There's another LA Fitness another 20 minutes away from me, just kind of on opposite sides. And Saturday mornings there's some good runs. Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, usually some good runs, and the competition is pretty good too. Like it's always good feeling like you're not. I feel like I'm a good player there, but there are a lot of really good players there too. So anyone could be the best on any given night, that's how you get better is by playing against better people and stuff. So yeah, yeah, I try to go a couple of times a week, but as it gets nicer, definitely down to get some park runs in, and you have to avenge your summer, 0-9 versus me. So we'll put that on the calendar.
Okay, hey, it's not 0 and 9. It's 0 and 7, okay? It's
Oh,
not 0 and
okay.
9.
You can have beans
Yeah.
again. I'll take Huddle. How's that?
Fine. I don't mind. Well, it wasn't Beans that was the problem. It was these other two guys that were on the team that just come on, dude. We had one guy who was like I think literally just chucking up the ball. He was almost like John 2.0, like taking half court shots, but like he was trying to jelly on every layup, and that just doesn't work.
Yeah. Low basketball IQ.
I've I've noticed like, or I've realized over time is that no matter how healthy I think I am or how in shape I am to play basketball, like if I don't play,
Mhm.
whenever I do get on the court and get some runs, like I just feel exhausted afterwards, like right away. So I, I've just realized like if you're not doing it, you're not gonna really get better. I don't know if you've faced a similar challenge, like if you don't hoop for some time and then go back into playing, your legs or your body just kind of feel shot. Like you can't get your shot under, um, can't get shot up because your legs feel weak or can't really, because a lot of it, basketball, I do agree. I think to a certain extent is about feeling the game too and letting it come to you.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's like one of those things. If you don't use it, you lose it, and if you use it, then you'll keep getting stronger. It's like muscles or whatever. So if I go a couple days without cardio or this or that, I could feel like the first run, like, oh shit, this is gonna be a long game. And then especially as like the games go on, where it's like, maybe the fourth game or fifth game, like you can't really hit the shots that you could have maybe earlier on in the night. So you have to kind of adapt and be like, all right, I probably can't hit those 3 pointers anymore. So what can I do instead? So then maybe you go to the post and you do some footwork and make some magic happen.
Now, when you played in high school, was there a particular position you played and you stuck with that position for a long period of time?
I think our tallest guy was like 6'2" on my like senior team. But I would say like, kind of a wing, maybe a 2 or 3, um, kind of a slasher and stuff. I wish I had the skills I have now, but in high school, I would be
What do
dunking
you what do
on
you
I'd be
what do you
dunking on
mean? What do
freshmen. Just
you
like I feel like our coach was just like a normal coach, and it wasn't until later that I got more enthusiastic about it. Watching YouTube clips of maybe Kobe or Olajuwon, or even recently like Jokic or Tatum, all these guys, or LeBron, and kind of incorporating different parts of their game into my game. I never got into that until like after, you know, maybe even after college. So it would have been cool to just have a coach who was more interested in like developing your skills too. He did a great job with plays and stuff and this and that, but I felt like everyone was kind of set in stone about how good they were and like what their position was. Like, we had one guy who was the star of the team, and he was treated like that for the entire season, getting the shots and stuff. And he was the best player, I'm not complaining about that, but I just wish he maybe had pushed us more to kind of explore like um, our own skill sets. And I'm sure I could have done that more too, but when you're in high school, it's not something that you always think about too.
Yeah, I think you're hitting some I think a really good point. I think about that too at times, and I think about like how high school basketball it's solely based on like the superstar of
Hmm.
the team. And I think even college basketball too, to some degree, it's just very superstar oriented, where you have just one person, if they're good, all right, they get every touch, every possession, and there's less of that team basketball mindset and more so on like, hey, let's just give this guy the ball and let
Yeah.
him just kind of score all the points. And I do think that affects students or athletes in college who are trying to take the game more seriously, but
Hmm.
can't because they're just not getting the opportunity to do so. And I feel like I truly believe this. My high school coach definitely gypped me and along with the other kids. I'm not saying I was a monster, but I was a pretty decent player and definitely passionate about the game for sure. Like most people who play the game. But I think he just wanted to give like the one or two kids who were um, you know, the who led the offense pretty much. But what I remember, like they had so much like off the court issues going off the court, like off the basketball court issues going on with them is that like they would miss games often or they couldn't attend a game because of a because they couldn't pass their physicals. Yeah, so I yeah, I feel like high school coaching definitely needs to get better. Um and I remember playing being a walk-on as a freshman, playing a little bit of JV, and then when I got to my senior year, because you could only play varsity in your senior year, I remember kind of coming off the bench and then just not getting any burn. And then I was like, fuck this. And then I saw a lot of these kids afterwards, like after post, like when I was in college, I would come back home and I would see them, at the local park, or even years after that, I would see them, and I'm like, these guys are bona fide fucking scrubs. Like I would destroy you. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that got me a little frustrated when I think about that because I go like that. There are so many missed opportunities from kids who are actually passionate about the game, who love the game, watch the game, and want to learn from the game. Speaking of the game, staying on the topic of basketball, who do you think is the greatest basketball player of all time? And you can just give me one answer. It's just one. No one cares about two. No one cares
Paul
about three.
Pierce. Paul
It's
Pierce.
Dude, stop it. Come on. Stop.
No, I don't know, man. For me, you know, I feel like I have to say LeBron. Um, and I and I told like I feel like I totally get the MJ stuff too. Um, but just like I feel like that's fair to like that generation as well. Like that's who they grew up watching. As this guy gets older, you just appreciate what he's been doing that much more. Be doing this for what, 22 years or so. I think one of my earliest memories is when he was in the playoffs with that original scrub Cleveland team, and he just hits like this crazy buzzer beater versus Orlando to tie the series maybe at 2-2. That was huge. They would have gone down a game. And that was when I was 10 years old. And it's like
Yeah.
15 years later, and he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And every year he hits, some crazy shots along the way. So for me, I have to say him just because the longevity of it is just like probably the most impressive part. Just how well he must take care of his body. And to just be so competitive for so long, you have to just tip your cap to it. And I also think it was impressive. Three franchises you have titles with. I feel like that was pretty cool too. Um, I wish he had a little bit more. So like, the guys who say Kobe or MJ, maybe a little bit less noise from those two guys. But um, you know, if people picked either of those guys, either like I get it, I see it. But I would say LeBron for me.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. You're absolutely right. Everything you said is just 100 right there. Talking about LeBron in his game, the fact that he's done this for 22 years consistently it's amazing to see, and I think it's a gift for us to see this man just continue
Hmm.
to play and perform at the level he's doing it at. I honestly don't think he's retiring anytime soon, man. I just don't like he's just not showing any slowdown in his game. Recently, he won Player of the Month, which from what I read was the last time he won Player of the Month was in 2004.
Wow.
And that's insane to win player. That's that's insane, right? To think about. And
Yeah.
it blows your mind that this man invests, hundreds of millions of dollars into his body over, the 22 years he's been playing and performing. And he's still like you said, the buzzer beater and the shots, like he's still doing the same thing, like taking one-legged shots. He's like out hustling these guys who are like 22, 25. So I don't know. He just doesn't seem human at times.
Yeah. He went to MSG recently. You guys played the Knicks the last month or so. And I don't know if he had 40 points or like 35, but like he put up another like monster game. I think this was before the Luka trade. So now it's just like it's not going to be he's on the back end of his career, so whenever I get to watch him, I'm doing it with respect and it's like an appreciation because he's not going to be around more. Even the Celtics and the Lakers played a couple maybe a week or two ago. Sorry that we had to whoop you guys in the second half there, but
You're not sorry.
even
I know you're not sorry.
no, no. Um,
You're not sorry.
but even we don't get to play him as often as we used to. I'm not going to complain about that. He was kind of our big brother for a long time. So whenever you get to play him again, it's like special because, this guy's one of a kind and he's been doing it for so long in so many different jerseys and so many iterations. And it's cool how like, you mentioned how our bodies, like if we miss it, if we miss a day of car or, we don't play for a bit, we can't play the same way. Well, this guy's been playing 20 years. He obviously doesn't have that athleticism anymore, but his IQ is like off the charts and like this dude's still a freight train. And now,
Yeah.
I think he's relying a little bit more on his inside game, little bit more of the mid-range. Um,
I
the
think the three a
three-point
lot
shot
too.
has come a
Yeah.
long way too.
The
What is
free
it
throw
called?
as
The
well.
fuck you three, where he like looks away and spins the ball and then hits it. Like
Does he loves that shot? It's like
he
this
added that to his
fadeaway
bag.
step back three, I think. That's amazing that I've never heard someone
Hmm
say the fuck you three. That's
Yeah.
what I'm gonna start calling it now. The
He'll spin the ball, look at it. Like people think he's I think everyone sees it coming, but he's just so big and like he could just do it and nobody can stop
yeah,
it.
yeah. It was nice to see Al Horford getting his dub against LeBron because I
Hmm
think Al Horford is someone who's constantly gotten his ass kicked against LeBron in the playoffs years after
Yeah.
years. So I could see like when I was watching that game, I could see like the Celtics were playing with a lot of passion.
hmm
And for me, I still don't understand why JT just doesn't get the respect he deserves. He is so gifted. His IQ is off the charts. He's such a great passer, an amazing ball handler for someone who's 6'8",
Yeah.
you know. Why do you think he keeps why do you think he keeps getting snubbed and why do you think he got snubbed in the Olympics last year?
Yeah, it's a good point. And when you say snub, just like in terms of what when the media are talking
So
about him or like
yeah,
MVP
so
rankings and stuff.
particularly when Steve Kerr didn't give him any
Hmm
play time in the Olympics. And this is the same year they were coming off of championship
hmm
and and and
Yeah,
he was competing for the finals MVP as well with JB.
yeah. I think with that, um, you look at that Olympic roster, that thing is loaded. And, you could say that Jason Tatum was probably the third best small forward on the team. You got LeBron in front of him, you got KD there. So it's kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier on. It's kind of like the changing of the guard. And I think it was just like you have so many good players that, they're going to be guys who can't get some run. It would have been great as a Celtics fan to like see him play more, but I think I understand what Steve Kerr was doing. Like you are trying to limit the rotations a bit. And in some of those games, like you got KD going absolutely bananas, like 9 for 9 from three or something, or from the field, and you got LeBron. But I think even before like going into that Olympics, like, they didn't even really need Jason Tatum because, they have LeBron, they got KD, Curry's playing in his first Olympics. So I think it was a lot of like the changing of the guard there. And, Kerr. What Steve Kerr gonna sit LeBron James? Is he gonna sit Kevin Durant, someone who's on his team for 4 years or so? So I think he just kind of got the short end of the stick. Um, but it should piss him off nonetheless. Like as a competitor,
Yeah.
you don't want to sit behind anyone. So, I hope it continues to fire him up and I hope he gets back into the next Olympics and, gets more run, especially if Bron or KD aren't playing. But you have two Hall of Famers in the same position. I think that could be tough. I'm not saying that they're better than him right now, but the longevity and like they've been doing it a little bit longer, I think you gotta give it up to the OGs. Unless they're playing like shit, but I don't they weren't playing like shit.
Yeah, I think about the Olympics and I think about the OGs and I go, is it the last time we'll see these guys play together in the Olympics? And
Hmm
then I look at we just spoke about LeBron and I think LeBron is setting this trend for that. Hey, you could be in the league for as long as you want, as long as you are
hmm
consistent and you invest in your body. So I feel like in 4 years we'll see Steph in the 2028 Olympics with LeBron, with JT. I don't know if KD is going to be still playing at that time. He, I don't want to say he isn't invested in the game, but I don't think he brings the same caliber of kind of or the same energy as like LeBron does. because I've just constantly seen him hop from team to team to team, and then end up like wanting to leave from that team. Like even Phoenix, he wants to get out of Phoenix now, from what I'm hearing, and from what I read the other day is that Phoenix, even if he doesn't want to leave Phoenix, Phoenix is looking to trade him at the end of this season. So
Yeah.
most likely his last season there. Dude, can I transition into your stand up because you were just doing some
Yeah.
stand up. How did your show go?
So I did a couple. Um, I ended up not doing it this past Thursday. So I this coming Thursday, I'm gonna give it a shot. But I did one show in 2023. I did not show, but sets. Three sets in 2024. I'm trying to do at least four this go around. So like maybe something every quarter and just trying to build up on it.
Yeah.
So it's a process and like, it's so easy to talk about ball and like because I feel like I'm very good at it and it's something that I feel like I've kind of mastered in my own way. With stand up, it's like totally like the opposite. Like it's something like new. I'm building it from scratch and I'm not very good. Um, but I think like you need to have those hobbies that you're a beginner at, gets you out of your comfort zone and stuff. So, I'm excited to see how it turns out. So come, I think that'll be this upcoming Thursday. And from the shows that I did do, I have, a couple jokes that hit, couple of jokes that don't hit. So it's just like a process. And I think like if you get so obsessed with like how the result is gonna go, you're gonna lose interest. But for me, it's like this is the process of like getting better at something. And I feel like for me, like basketball is kind of like a guide for that because, there were times where I wasn't getting enough play time or I wasn't good enough maybe in like seventh grade to play on our varsity team. But I put in the work and by the time like that eighth grade year rolled around, my skills had developed where I was able to play. Same thing, like taking jumps from high school to college and college to now, like it's the same thing. Like I'm just trying to do it just over a long period of time though. And the goal is to, get better than Nick. That's all I'm hoping for at this point. And then I could be the funny one, but I'm playing the long game here.
Can I ask you what got you into comedy?
Stand-up specifically was Nick. It was really cool to see like, he was our roommate obviously and we had lived with him and been like close to him at different points and maybe it was either our sophomore or junior year, but he had mentioned he had been doing stand-up and I went to at least one or two shows of his. We would go on the weekend. I'm like, wow, this is like this is super cool. Like we took a bus into the city.
Yeah.
We had a couple drinks beforehand. I was like, it was just like really cool you could tell how passionate about it he was, but at the same time, you're like, he's not practicing today. Like, how is he gonna do this? And he goes up and he does great at his set. So like, he was also a master at his craft too. Um, so that always got me interested. Like, he was the first person that I knew personally that did stand up, and I was like, that's something I really admire about him, and it's something I still admire because he was so passionate to up and leave from Maryland and go and try his stuff out in Texas because he's so committed to it and so passionate about it. And even when he was in Maryland, like he was still so passionate about it too. So that's kind of what got me initially interested in it. And just as the years went on, and I was kind of wrestling with different things that I wanted to try creatively. I was like, that seems like something I would want to at least try my hand at and kind of see how it goes.
What do you think for you? What has been the hardest challenge for you when you do open mics?
hmm I think for me is like just the time and how I juggle it in my week or like how I make time for it or carve out time for it. I think that's been the hardest part because usually like sometimes I'll make excuses and I won't even do it or like I won't write. So I think like if you start to lose like momentum there, like it won't turn out. But I guess my process is like trying to spend at least an hour or two on it a week and then kind of get ready for your 5 minutes. I feel like that part's actually not too bad. Like once you kind of have your jokes lined up, um, it's really not too bad to kind of memorize 5 minutes of material. Does the material hit or not? That's another story too. So constantly
Yeah.
trying different jokes out and seeing what hits, what doesn't. And I think just trying to be like resilient, if you don't hit those 2 hours that you wanted to do, or like if you had a joke or two like that flopped, like I feel like that's part of it. You just gotta keep, shoot or shoot, you gotta keep shooting and I feel like in the long run, things will work out for you if you stay committed to something.
I love that for you, man. That sounds like a lot of fun. And you said shoot or shoot, and I would even say like you miss every shot you don't take, right? So,
Hmm.
and I asked you that question is because over the past few months, I've been kind of inspired by comedy as well. And I
Hmm.
thought to myself, like, why am I like starting to feel this inspiration? And I think about, for me, I feel very fortunate because of the people that I had in my life, like my friends, like yourself. And I think about like, uh, Nick, like you said as well, who's resilient in terms of like wanting to do stand up. But I think I'm jumping the gun here, and I just want to take a step back and let you know that one of the reasons why I started the podcast is one
Hmm.
of the big motivating factor for me was you, because you were doing something similar on Spotify,
Hmm.
and I thought that was really cool, and that really inspired me to start this little journey. And comedy is kind of just tying into it because I think everybody needs comedy in life and needs laughter in life. It's just a great way to keep things like not so serious, like you need
Yeah.
a laugh. And
Yeah.
I think even finding laughter in the most harshest time um, is could be a good thing because and I think about this. The most recent example I give you is I was having a conversation with my neighbor who lives on the first floor. And we live in an urban city where cars are blasting music going by, you know, and as the weather gets nicer, the music just gets louder and louder. And somehow we started talking about noise pollution, and she goes, Amir, I've been here for, 15 years. And yeah, at first the noise was certainly a problem to me, but you know what? After some time, now when I hear the bachata,
Hmm.
she's like, I just started dancing. She's like,
Yeah.
she's like, you just have to laugh and you just have to dance because it's out of your control. And I thought that
Yeah.
was really cool, and that stuck with me. So yeah, so I think laughter is a really it's really important. Um, and speaking of comedy, like there's a lot of creative writing, like you said, that goes behind
Hmm.
comedy. And I learned from having Nick on the pod was he was telling me that comedy, people assume that when comics go up, it's all just in their head and
Hmm.
it's improv. It's not improv. It's actually very scripted and rehearsed, and they have writers at times, and that was very cool. So I'm assuming you are doing some creative writing, right?
Oh yeah,
And do you have a
yeah.
team of creative writers that help you?
No, no, just me. So, that's where I get all my material. It's not too much improv. I know there are different like entertainers who might make it more interactive, like do like I don't know, just ask questions with the audience and kind of go back and forth with them. But for me, it's I have my different jokes, have different transitions, try to get there. Sometimes on the venue, I might try to make it more um might try to kind of personalize a joke or like kind of an intro to like my audience and stuff. Um, So I usually like to do that at the start of my set, and then I usually have like kind of my one or two go-to ones after that. And then maybe like a newer one that I'm trying to test and stuff. So no, it's usually that's that's where all the work is, and that's where the hardest part is. It's like all those steps leading up to actually getting on the stage is like, writing your different, writing jokes, seeing what hits, seeing what doesn't. Um, I was telling Jill a joke the other day, and then, I go through it all, and she's like, Where's the joke?" And then you're like, "Okay, you got to go back to the writing, got to go back to the chalkboard and start from scratch again, or make some tweaks and adjustments."
So, question on that. Do you notice,
Hmm.
when you run a joke or you run something by your significant other and they seem to not get it, do you think it's because like they're not like their headspace is not the audience and they know you and like it just doesn't hit because of the relationship aspect, or do you think it's because it's just not funny? Because that's what I'm starting to notice. Like I'll run ideas
Hmm.
by Emily,
Yeah.
and sometimes you could read people before they even say something, and obviously having lived with her, the face she'll make, I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
okay. Like I know what you're
Hmm.
about to say. You don't have to say it. So, and I'm not trying to assume her feelings, but like a lot of times faces could say a lot about, the reaction that their, faces are reaction. So I learned like when it comes to the creative aspect, like I should probably not run things by my wife. It like because we live together, we sleep together, we eat together. It just doesn't seem to work out in that aspect. So have you noticed that as well, or is that just me? Um,
I feel like with like my stand-up and stuff, I do trust Jill's opinion because I do find her pretty funny actually. So I feel
okay.
like if she's saying it's not good, it is not good. And I do have to take a look at the mirror and say, okay, what can I do? Because she's got a great sense of humor. Same thing, like I'll run it by my brother, too. And like if he's not biting at it, like there's usually something that I have to tweak a little bit. I mean, for example, like it was, and like I look back from like last week, and it like wasn't a great bit anyway. Like the joke I was trying to make was just like, I don't know, just see if I could find it at least. Okay, here, I'll tell you it, and like you tell me if it's funny because I don't I haven't tweaked this one since last time, but
Okay.
like
Okay.
um just basically it's like, I drive a 2008 Hyundai Tucson. If that doesn't give like alpha male, I don't know what does. The best part of it, it used to be my grandma's car. I was my grandma's favorite, so I didn't even have to pay for it. I still have her original Jersey grandma bumper sticker on the back. The point is like I'm pretty much a badass with my Hyundai Tucson. And then I just list all of like the facts about it. It's got like 140-mile-an-hour horsepower, tows about 1,500 pounds, comes with satellite radio, no Bluetooth, and it's got cruise control, blah blah blah. So I think it's the concept is there, but I haven't like made the next step
Yeah.
of like formulating it into like where's the punchline, where's the delivery. The point I'm trying to make, it's like I'm trying to be sarcastic about like how much of a badass or like how much of an alpha male I am. Meanwhile, I'm driving my grandma's car. So like that's the kind of process. Like you start off with an idea and then you try to morph it into like something that hits.
Yeah, I think the material is certainly there. Yeah. Now,
Right, and I'm sure it wasn't funny.
I thought it was funny. I thought it had funny aspects to it. Does
Hmm.
That's the other thing. I feel like you could tell a joke to someone and they could find it hilarious or funny,
Hmm.
and you could tell it to someone else, and it just like it just doesn't hit.
Yeah.
So when, for example, when you run these jokes by, your, let's just say your creative writing team, do they give you pointers, or is it just like, hey, no, you have to work on it? That because that's the other thing I don't like is
Hmm.
when I if I do run something by it and it's just like, I think you may need to work on it. It's like, okay, well, what about it does it need to be worked on? Can you be specific?
Yeah. No, I mean, in this case, she was like, it's just, it's too long and there's no like punchline. And I was like, well, can you help me with the punchline? And she's like, no, I'm not, this isn't my thing. Just give it another try. A lot of the
Yeah.
times, if I run it by her or Ryan, like a lot of the times it will because it's like a run-on sentence and it's like, just get to the point. So a lot of the feedback I've gotten from those two, I guess they're my creative writing team, is to just make things like more concise, more simple, and just get into it right off the bat, as opposed to like just an overload of information, which is fair.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like good comics. Like, what is it? I'm not a comic, obviously, nor am I an expert in this field. I'm trying to think of what do you think good comics have? Like, in terms of, is it an energy thing? Like, are they enthusiastic, or is it their demeanor that just makes them really great? Like all the great comics.
Well, I think I may have read something recently where it's like the great comics get you thinking. And some of my favorites are like George Carlin, who has passed away, or like Dave Chappelle. Um, George Carlin, for example, is a very sarcastic kind of guy. Like he said on multiple occasions, like, I hope there's a meteor and I hope it like destroys the earth kind of thing. He's basically like he's like we're all pretty much fucked. And I think he's almost like a philosopher because if you apply like his jokes or his perspective into like our day and age now, it just still hits, if not even more. Like, he talks about like politics a lot and just how like he'll say like nobody cares about you. Nobody is looking out for you. Everyone is out for themselves and they are just trying to get money. Nobody cares about you. This is a big club of millionaires and billionaires, and you and I we're not in it. And he just kind of thinks like life is a big circus and like it's just chaos. Which, there's definitely so many things that we can even pull from now and just be like, you know, life is chaos and you can't control it. And I think his attitude towards it is what makes it so compelling because he pushes the envelope and he like steps across the line a bit, often. So that's why I liked him a lot. He's so sarcastic, but he kind of tells it how it is, and he kind of um tells it how he sees it, which I always appreciate. It just feels like he always keeps it real.
Yeah,
It feels like he's your older,
relatable.
yeah, yeah. He's like your older uncle or your like grandfather, and he's like, this is actually how things are going right now. And you're like, oh shit, we are fucked. Like maybe I am waiting for that meteor.
So do you plan to do more sets throughout the year? You said you have a target of four. Do you up the bounty every year? Like from you said you did four last year. Are you planning on
Hmm.
doing more this year?
Yeah, I did 3 last year. I'm gonna try to
Okay.
do 4 this year. Um, what might get in the way is like, I feel like I'm interested in like professional wrestling too. And there's and I'm not getting any younger,
That's
I'm not
money,
getting any
dude. You should
younger.
you
So
should do it.
there's a
Wait, didn't I text
school.
that to you the other day? Didn't I text
Yeah, you
didn't
said
I
you'd be
text
great at this. And the thing about professional wrestling, it's like, sure, like, um,
that?
there is like an athletic part to it, but you can also use the skills from your stand-up to have a good promo. Like if you see the guys on
Yeah.
TV, the best of the best are cutting like some good promos every week. And that's not improv. I'm sure they think of that too. So I like how it combines, athletics, but also like you have to have a personality when you're out there. You need to be able to tell a story. So that's kind of in my, that obsession keeps kind of coming in the back of my mind of just like, now might be the time to go after that. Like for stand up, it's
You
not
should you
like,
should totally do it. You should totally fucking
yeah.
do it. I
There's a
I,
and
I
I
think
found there's
you'd
a
be you'd
there's
be
a
awesome.
there's a course. It's like 2 grand for a year, which I don't feel like that's the worst investment. If you're investing it on yourself,
Any investment in yourself is a great investment.
yeah. It's in Rawway and they do like it's like a 12-week program or I don't know, but they have all these like all right, we'll teach you how to grapple, we'll teach you how to do finishers or like all right, we'll work on promo skills here. Like it just sounds like super cool and it's just one of those things like if I don't do it, I feel like I'm gonna regret it when I'm older and when I have a kids and a fucking dog and a cat and you're just like, wow, when did I get so old, man?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I think that's it. Yeah, just one of those things you just don't want to regret. You at least
No,
want to like put your hat in the ring and say, I want to go for this.
yeah, that's awesome that you want to do that. I think most people go their whole life not like they feel those things, but they
Hmm.
don't act on those emotions. So the fact that you already know what it is that you want to try out and you want to pursue it, that's awesome, man. And I think you'd be great at wrestling. Which is why I texted you the other day. I was like, yo, you should
Yeah.
because I think to a certain degree, a lot of it is showmanship too. You
Hmm.
know, like I think about Rey Mysterio. Like he was what 5'6", 5'7",
Yeah.
super tiny guy, or even like the Great Khali, like super big. You know, like yes, there certainly is skill involved, and as long as you could work on that skill and develop it. But I think so much of it is a showmanship, and are you entertaining? Um, but those are all things you could work on. Like I could tell you, like this when I started this podcast last year, I really struggled with uh like the creative aspect of it, where I was just super nervous. But I think over time, like yes, there still is some nervousness, but like so much of that has gone away because it's just this repetition now, this muscle memory that you've added. So if you were wrestling, what would you what would be your wrestler? Like what would be your, I guess, gimmick? Because I think some of them do have a gimmick to us, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah. It's either like, for the most part, you're either kind of like a good guy or like a bad guy. And I feel like you have to have an idea if you went either way. So if I was like if I was a heel or a bad guy, for example, like just feel like you just want to be a just cocky, good-looking douchebag. I feel like that really goes a long way. Looking at yourself in the mirror and I don't know, just being like super, super cocky and just like arrogant. Like
Obnoxious?
I think Logan Paul is a good example of like a really good, like someone that you really hate. Like this guy, like I hate this guy's guts, but he does it so good where you're like, secretly you're like, all right, I respect it. So something like that. Someone super arrogant. For me, like whenever I play like board games or like games, I do like to cheat a little bit. I like to sprinkle
A
that
little
in.
bit?
So
A
like
little bit?
whatever it takes sometimes. It reminds me of a little bit of like there's this wrestler Eddie Guerrero, like his thing was like lie, cheat, and steal. Like the referee wouldn't look, he would hit you under, he would hit you in the nuts. Referee's not looking again, he'd hit you with a chair. And then he would throw the chair to the other guy and lay down. So it would look like the other
Yeah,
guy hit
yeah,
him.
that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
So
Yeah.
just like that wrestling psychology too is like really cool. You're like, and he was so good at being the bad guy that people started rooting for him.
Yeah.
So I don't know, something like that, or like, I don't know. One of my just favorite characters in general is just like Batman. I like how he has like the Bruce Wayne and Batman alter ego. Um, so it's just been something to think about too. Like just someone who's like who kind of goes from like just like no nonsense. I liked how you don't know who he is. Um, and he uses like what he's scared as his like motivation too. But I don't know how that would look like for me. I can't just be running out as Batman. They already got that trademarked. They already got that one. But who
Do you
knows? And
know
I
how
think the
this is awesome?
I think what I wanted to say too is like for you and for your like creative like process here, the same way
My
I
creative
looked at it when
journey
I
is
was
what I'm calling it.
yeah, yeah, everything is like everything's a work in progress and like nothing's complete and you learn what works and you learn what doesn't and then you kind of go from there. And that's the my podcast was called Growth Minded and like that's the way I like to approach everything is like your outcomes are limitless if you believe in yourself and you keep putting in your effort and stuff. Um, so it sounds like you're already kind of thinking that way too. So that's how I like to approach, especially like the creative stuff that I'm not good at because you won't necessarily see like nobody's gonna say, "Oh wow, like you did great on this or that." Like it has to come from yourself. Um, So those small wins, when you can appreciate them about yourself or your project, like those are the things that you have to like keep track of because that'll be the reason that you keep going and stuff.
Yeah, and I think if you realize that the small iterations that you're making in your progress, like that is so important. And again, I look back to episode one of the podcast where when I was talking, I was super nervous. I was just kind of reading off a script and versus now where it's more organic, which is what feels more natural and fun to me. But then also you realize the production value behind it as well. Like, okay, here's where I can make iterations to for it to get better. Going back to the wrestling thing, by the way, I think I truly mean that. Like, I wish you the best. I think you're gonna absolutely kill it. How long would this program be if you were to pursue it? So it's like a $2,000 thing, let's say. I'm sure there's some sort of amateur wrestling involved at first.
Yeah, I think from what I was seeing on the website, it's like I think it's like 2,500 bucks for 1 year, or if you do 2 years, it'll be like 4 grand, so you save some money there. Um, so it'd be 1 to 2 years, which I think is fair. I wouldn't want anything shorter. Like, when I did my podcast, like I did that for at least 2 years. And then for stand up, that's been over a year as well. So I don't necessarily, and the reason I haven't gotten into it too is like I can be a little bit stubborn and like it's like I don't want to like just keep jumping around from one thing to another. I want to get better at like something, I want to master something and I'm sure it's going to take years and stuff. Um, But yeah, it would be like at least a year or a year or two. And I think like that would be enough time to be like, is this something that would be a fun hobby to continue doing for the next X amount of years, or is this something like that I'm over already after a couple years?
So would you say is it a more of a passion project for you or kind of a hobby for you, the wrestling thing, or is it a little bit of both?
No, I would say it's definitely a passion. There's definitely I'm passionate about it. I still like watching it and stuff and following along. And it's just one of those things like when you're a kid, you're like, I think that would be kind of cool to do.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but the
remember
thing is like
watching
I'm not
wrestling.
mhm,
Yeah, I was just gonna add that I remember watching
mhm.
wrestling with my dad almost every day, and he would go into work late because he had a night shift, and we would watch Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, and that was a lot of fun. And I remember like he would be running late to his work because he wanted to stay on and watch the girls fight because they would come on after the guys typically and like they would be like in in quote unquote provocative costumes and um but it was just like fun, it was just fun to watch. It's just always been entertaining. um but yeah, that's awesome that you want to pursue that. I think you'll be great at it, man. I really think you should do it.
And the thing is, like, I don't think I'm getting any younger too. So it's like, at least with stand up, I feel like you could do that at any point of your life. Like with the wrestling, like, I feel like it takes still like that athleticism and stuff. And it just seems like it's a little bit of a bigger commitment. And like, I feel like that would be the time to do that might be now when I don't have too many commitments going on. But I also don't want to just throw stand up to the side because, I mean, one, I could use those skills here too. Um, so we'll see. I'll keep you posted on how things shake out.
Nice. So when are you coming over for dinner, you and Joe? Because I've asked you this and you've been ducking and dodging me, and now I'm gonna put you on the spot here
You are
and make
putting me on the
sure.
spot. Well, let me open up my
I,
calendar. We are more settled in, so I think that's good.
dude, I'm kidding. You don't have to you don't have to pull up your calendar.
All right, give
You
me
and
calendar
Joe are,
back.
by the way, the life of the party. Pretty much everywhere we go, even at our wedding, I remember
Hmm.
you guys have such a way of getting everybody involved and just having a good time. And I remember, you know, you guys got the limbo going, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
the tie.
yeah,
That was really cool.
what is it?
Yeah, we had the tie going at your wedding and stuff, and that was awesome. That was a great time.
Yeah.
How are things? How is the married life?
I've been asked that question several times, and honestly, like it's no different. Like
Hmm.
I don't feel any different per se. Uh,
Yeah.
uh well, well, you know what? That's not true. I keep telling myself I don't really feel any different, but really the
Hmm.
truth is you realize that like this is your partner, and
Hmm.
you guys are together for for the foreseeable future and the rest of your life, really, I like to think. And it's like, how do you now create lasting memories together and support each other? And I'm sure you could agree with me on this, is like having a partner that supports you through some of your personal journeys, whether it's stand up or a podcast or wrestling. It just makes it so much easier to have someone who supports you on those things on your personal journey. Of course, at the end of the day, like you're, a husband first, a father first. Um, so I feel very lucky and blessed to have a partner where who's always been supportive in terms of like, hey, like if that's what you want to do, like I'm with you, I support you. Um, yeah. So it does feel different in that sense now. Like how do we build a life together, a meaningful life where we both get to do and follow our dreams and passion? Because I think a lot of times when people think about marriage, they think about like it being the end, like that's it, you're done. Like I like to think of it completely different. Like I don't see it as you being done. I feel like it's the start of your life, just a new chapter.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and I think about like these phrases that we have with marriage, or these stigmas of like, you know, looks like, for example, I'm trying to think like looks like she's the man of the house, or looks like we know who wear yeah so I just feel like all those things are just kind of like they put you down rather than like you working together as a team. Um so yeah. Marriage has been pretty good. Like I said, I feel very, very, very lucky in a lot of ways.
No, it's awesome. And it's been really cool to be able to see you and like Emily like grow so close over the years. Kind of like see you guys at the start of your journey too. And it seems like, along the way, you both were like so super, very supportive of each other. Um, she even supported you living in that, nasty college house with us. And she spent some nights there too. So, even when it's outside of her comfort zone or maybe things that she wouldn't necessarily do herself, like to still be able to be there for you and stuff, I feel like that's how you know you got a good one. And I feel the same way too about my current situation too, just very supportive. But no, I do wish you both the best, and I'm sure you both feel the same way. Like I'm not surprised that you're like, oh, it doesn't feel anything like super new, but I feel like it's like a deepening. Like as you get older, like things might not be totally new, but the appreciation is deeper and the love is deeper. And it's just like, all right, well, how can we continue, like you said, um, kind of growing your love for one another and stuff, and looking
Yeah,
at it as like we're a team and not like it's you versus me. It's like we're in this together.
yeah, yeah. You said it beautifully, and so I don't really have anything to add after that. Well, Eddie, I really appreciate you coming on. This certainly meant a lot to me, and I hope we do this again someday. And like I said, thank you for motivating me or being a motivating factor for me to starting this podcast.